Welcome back. I am Jen Potter, host of The Wow Within, where we talk to authors and writers who have a story to tell because inside there is a wow story that we all have. Today, I am joined by Sarah Elizabeth. She is an executive director, author, and Reiki practitioner, and she's done a lot of different things in her life and along her journey. Today, we're going to talk about ripping away external expectations and creating a safe space for others to do the same. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And I'm going to ask right out the gate because this is something that we talked about. I introduced you as Sarah Elizabeth, but that is not your full name. So why do you go by Sarah Elizabeth?
So, Elizabeth is my middle name. And when I started this journey of really going inward, I found that neither my married name, I'm now divorced, nor the name that I was born with really seemed to fit who I am inside and who I want to be as I go forward. So, even going by Sarah Elizabeth is really just an example of trying to figure out who the most authentic version of me is and aligning my life with that.
I really love that because we hold on to the expectations of the last names and they do define a little bit of us. And so it's really awesome that you've taken that independence to be able to create that space for yourself. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
And you recently wrote a book and we were just talking about it, and you sent me a copy actually not that long ago, and I dove right in. And you have a really amazing way of really capturing your story. I'm a very visual person, and I read the first 20 pages like right out the gate, and I sent you a message. I'm like, oh my goodness, this story is so good. I just can't wait to finish reading it. And then of course I got sick, so it took me a little longer to read it. But you wrote When the White Picket Fence is No Longer Enough, and that came out in 2024. And if you want to tell us a little bit about your story and your journey and, going through those external expectations, because a lot of our viewers are going through it or have gone through it. So it's definitely relatable to a lot of women and men.
Yes, and I'm glad that you added that because, while that target audience does seem to be the women and mothers, I have had several men that have read it that have found themselves on a different path than what they had expected, and they found resonance with the stories that I've shared within the book. So the secret is most of this book started out really as my private journal entries. It was a way for me to process the moment that I found myself sitting in a life where it looked beautiful to the outside world and I had wonderful people in my life and I felt completely alone on the inside. And I think that that may be the worst type of loneliness that you can have because it's almost unjustifiable to the outside world. So I watched, my marriage fall apart. My son was diagnosed with autism, and I was trying to hold life together. And the only outlet that I found was in writing my story down. And what happened was, as I continued to write, I continued to see my story in a different perspective. And even through the chaos, I found these little glimmers of beautiful moments and moments that I found peace, and I started to build upon those. And so a lot of the stories that I share are from my heartfelt experiences with the goal of being the most vulnerable that I could be to create a space that would be that would allow others to be vulnerable as well.
And it's really hard to allow that piece of you out into the world, right? Because we live in our heads for so long when you're going through anything, traumatic and life changing, and you create these internal dialogues, and we don't always let them out. But then when you start creating that space, it allows other people to start to do it for themselves too. And, I said when I started reading your book, I even started crying at one point because our stories are so different, but the trauma is real. And we all go through a different trauma, which is, the whole basis of the show. Everyone has a wow. Everyone has something that they have gone through. And this has been part of your journey. You've had this opportunity to be able to tell your story and allow people the safe space to be able to, even feel their own. And I love that.
Yes, thank you. And, I'll say that when I started writing this, there were only two people that knew I was writing this book. I had to keep it under wraps, mostly because I was so scared that if I told one person what I was doing, they would look at me like I was crazy and I would just stop. And it was really a healing part for me. So I had to get to the point in writing the book that no matter what people said, no matter how they judged my journey or what they thought of this new version of Sarah that they saw being released, I was at a place that I had found peace within myself and was comfortable and ready to share with the world some of my hardest moments and hope that that would allow others, to feel like they weren't quite so lonely on their own journeys.
And it's hard when you have the outside opinions telling you how they feel or what they see. They don't know what it's like inside, right? You're the only person that understands that. And I think one of the most powerful things that I learned along my journey was, this is what I feel and my feelings are valid. And whether you agree with me or not, they're still valid. And it took me a long time to let those outside opinions stop me from doing the things that I was doing because I'm a people pleaser. So I would do everything in my power to change the narrative to kind of mold for other people and not listen to the things that I really wanted to do. And it seems that as you started to, your story starts to unfold, and you started talking about those things, talking about, like you said, the new version. And the new version is Sarah listening to herself and Sarah dictating her narrative and not allowing other people to dictate it because it's so easy for us to be swayed by outside opinions, right? And it's hard as a recovering people pleaser. I'm still like, oh, I kind of maybe I should do this instead. I'm like, no, focus, so it's really difficult. And because this, talking about your journey and your story and the things that you're working on, it's not part of what you're doing every day, right? Like your full-time job, like this probably isn't part of your full-time job, so it is a little bit different. And how has writing this book changed your outlook when it comes to changing a lot of yourself to be the person that you are today?
Yeah, so I think, in looking backwards, just from the time we grow up, we are grown to find our value through external validation. And you said you're a recovering people pleaser. I think there's many of us that have experienced that on our journey. And I took that role on very strongly in my professional life. I would say that I was very much of a type A person and I was a team player and there to protect whatever organization I was to the best of my ability. And writing this book was very scary, not necessarily in the writing part, but in the actual releasing it and not knowing how that would impact the professional um, perception that others would have of me. But as soon as I released it and I shared it, and when you share on LinkedIn, it's a little bit more of a professional site, there was some nerves related to that. But what I found was the people that worked with me saw me and respected me at a new level. And I think that there is a balance that we can bring even into the business world where we bring in our hearts into that space and we bring in our vulnerability. And I think overall it will make us better leaders when we align completely all aspects of who we are, the Sarah the mom at home, the Sarah the woman that's trying to find her way, the Sarah the professional that can hold the organization together. All of those components are aspects of me. And writing this and releasing this has allowed me to start to weave all of those different versions of myself into one complete version of who I am. And it's been exciting. It's still nerve-wracking. I would say I still am tiptoeing into the entire process, but I have been so surprised by the response that I have received when I thought I would have a more negative view of me once I started to do this.
It's because it's that external, the external thought process, right? And, myself included, when it comes to my writing, I was so scared that people are going to look at what I write and, are they going to judge me? Are they going to not want to associate themselves with me because this is the person that I really am? And it's really hard from a professional standpoint. It's how are they going to look at me differently? And same thing, I was so pleasantly surprised at the response that I got from my colleagues and my friends, and just being able to feel that. And it made me want to open up that much more. And for me personally, that's what brought me on this journey, this show and my continued writing. And it's because I want people to have that same feeling. I want them to experience what we got to experience. And not everyone has the opportunity to experience that, but we all go through it, right? Everyone's going through it. Our stories are all completely different, but we're all going through something. And once we start to align with our path, just like you said, all of those different, everyone sees a different side. I tell everyone now I'm like a dice, right? Like we all have a different side. And some people get to see one side, some people get to see two, some people get to see three, but not everybody gets to see all sides of Jen. And I finally got to the point in my life where I'm like, I think I'm going to show everybody all of the sides. And that is scary. And allowing yourself to do that and putting it in writing. You put that in writing, the whole world has the opportunity to see this now, right? And you're like, oh, so everybody's going to see this. And but it's a beautiful thing, because just by you doing so, you've allowed yourself to be expressive, to show people that there is that safe space, just like you wanted to connect. And so we're going to take our first break, and when we come back, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into the book and some of the stories. Stay tuned, we'll be right back.